We want to talk about the environment. Remember, today is the World Environment Day, and according to statistics within Kenya, water coverage is at 60% and sanitation at 29%, making the country lag behind in achieving the Sustainable Development Goal number 6 on clean water and sanitation for all, as established by United Nations General Assembly. In 2015 now, its outcome targets safe and affordable drinking water. Today being the World Environment Day, we look at water as a key component in sustaining life and also how the same has been affected by climate change. I am having this conversation with Anthony Ambugo, Chief Executive Officer, Water and Sanitation Providers Association. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Now, as we talk about environment today, we know that water is really important when it comes to the fight in just taking care of our environment and the biodiversity that is there. You are from the water services providers. What's the relation on climate change and how has it affected provision of water?
Thank you very much. Water and climate change are inextricably linked. We are just coming from COP27, and I think there is consensus that the crisis of climate change is a crisis of water.
How so? Because as we speak right now, you are from a group that continues to provide water to the public. Say in a day, how many liters have you been providing before? And now that you're dealing with climate change, water levels have gone down. How has that affected the number of liters that you provide to your customers and your clients out there?
I think fundamentally because of the issues of climate change, because this is one of the unprecedented challenge that is facing the community of nations within the globe. You've seen that in terms of precipitation, one, it's unpredictable, rising sea levels. And we have seen that it's like a pendulum. We are now oscillating. Remember, a few months ago, there was drought. And now we have gone into the rainy season where you saw floods. So those are some of the effects of climate change. Kenya itself is categorized as a water scarce country. The international threshold puts it as 1,000 cubic meter per capita. But according to the freshwater resources we have in this country, we are at 452 per capita. So that shows you that the country is already stressed. So in terms of coverage, I want to thank you. You've done your research right. Statistically, water coverage is 60%, and we now talk of safely managed sanitation. This is a higher ladder provided by the Joint Monitoring Program at the United Nations, because our constitutional Article 43 guarantees that every citizen in this republic has a right of access to safe and clean water in adequate quantities, but also reasonable standards of sanitation. So if you come to reasonable standards of sanitation, which is basic, as a country we are at 88%. But if you come to safely managed sanitation, just look at the point of containment or capture like a toilet. You see, that is not the end point that you are having the fecal matter. After some time when it is full, then it has to be conveyed, transported to a place where it will be treated. So in safely managed sanitation, we look at the entire value chain. So that's why a toilet still is not considered as safely managed, but it's a basic. So this has been a challenge because of the sources of water, and we have recognized that as water services providers. Regulated water services providers in this country are 100, serving a population of around 30 million. And as you are aware, we have a population of around 53 million in this country. And interestingly is that out of the service provision area we cover of 30 million, we are only able to provide water to 15 million. So where are the rest 15 million? They're either unserved or underserved. And this is the challenge. If you come to the city here, you will realize that Nairobi City Water and Sewerage Company is overstretched. The demand has outstripped supply. We are talking of around 800,000 cubic meters per day against a supply of around 525,000.
Now, Anthony, as we talk about this, there comes the issue of we are around 7 years away to Vision 2030, where we're supposed to be having improved standards of living in this country. As we approach this great milestone for Kenya, which is Vision 2030, are we likely to achieve the demands that come with that tag? We've finally gotten into that space. And if not, what must we do to get that?
Yeah, there are two things that are affecting the globe, as I've alluded to climate change. Remember that we had COVID-19 pandemic, which decimated economies, slowed down business, and also resulted to a number of deaths. So if you look at the UN report on water, it alludes to the fact that we were derailed. All nations in the world went off track in terms of achieving the Agenda 2030, which we have adopted in our blueprint Vision 2030. But at the international level, it's Sustainable Development Goal number 6. So it is tricky. It is not easy to achieve 7 years at 60% and at 29%. But what we have done as water service providers, and that is why we are hosting the Kenya Water and Sanitation International Conference and Exhibition 2023, 19 to 23rd June at Sarova White Sands in Mombasa. So we have picked some of the accelerators that if we are able to achieve the Vision 2030, what should we do? So here, our theme of this conference is harnessing innovation and technology. So we have a number of thematic areas that we are concentrating, because one challenge we are facing as a nation is huge budgetary deficit in financing water and infrastructure. We have a budget hole of close to 100 billion per year. And we have 7 years to come. So that would be around 700 billion. And most of the financing is coming from the development partners. So in one of the thematic areas like innovative financing, this has been applied to the road sector. You've seen the expressway, which was done in a record of 24 months. So that because the government already balance sheet is crowded, we are looking at off-balance sheet solutions. And this is now we are seeking to tap public-private partnerships. And this is a model that has worked well in Israel, where we can onboard private partners to come in and finance. In Israel, they have used built, operate, and transfer mechanism, and they have moved away to address the issue of climate change, which you asked. They were abstracting their water from the Sea of Galilee. But because it threatened to bring the river to extinct, what they did is they went to the Mediterranean Sea and invoked technology in terms of desalination. But paying attention to the issue of protecting the environment, they ensured that within the entire value chain, because we have always said that desalination is expensive, but then what they did is to ensure there is resource recovery. So as you do desalination, they also employ 4 R's. That is reuse, reduce, recover, and reclaim. So that you find part of the water that is wastewater through resource recovery. This water is recycled and used for agriculture. So you find there is the food, energy, water nexus. And we are thinking that the same can be deployed in this country. And it is possible for us to realize Vision 2030, because the challenge now is how do you match those resources and the infrastructure that we have. But if private sector can come and invest the amount of money we require, the only challenge is for the government to provide an enabling framework to ensure that that investment from the private sector is protected.
Now, Anthony, I want you to address the fact that you had alluded to the fact that we are faced with changing climatic conditions. There was drought, then there was floods. Now, in the event that there has been so much rain that we have a lot of water that now turns out to be floods, how are we saving our water? Where is this water going to? Because at the end of the day, if we are able as a country to conserve this water, to save it and use it for rainy days or for hotter days to come, then we are able to kind of have a balance. So what must the government do and water stakeholders in general to ensure that this water that we get does not go into waste?
A very good twin approach, both at government level, institutional, and also domestic level. Because it is said one, rainwater is wasted, because you see it just flows to the rivers. When you go to underground water, it's depleted. And if you look at surface water, it's polluted. And I think because of the issues of climate change, what we are looking when somebody mentions climate change now, we have to look into either building resilience, mitigation, to ensure that we are able to also adapt. So those are the three things we are looking. So for us, in terms of managing this, of course, the national government has pronounced itself strongly on the issue of dams. There are 100 big dams. Of course, we know there are some of the dams which are continuing, but it has taken a long time, like we are talking of Thwake Dam, Mwache, Itare here. Those are ongoing. So this one is supposed to improve the water security in the nation. But we're also challenging county governments which are approving building plans. We say that, look, when it rains in the city, it floods. So, and if you look around most of the houses, they don't have gutters. Why don't you make a simple law and make it mandatory that before you approve a building plan, then there is also that roof catchment? Because it doesn't make a lot of sense that after it rains, 10 minutes later, you will see our children and our women flocking to the river. And now they are collecting water that is already contaminated. And that is why the disease burden related to lack of access to safe and clean water is huge. It's at 70%. And that is why we say when you invest in water, safely managed water and sanitation, then you will be addressing the healthcare. In other terms, I can succinctly put it that it is water, safe and clean water, is a drive of public health.
Yes, and I agree with you. That is Anthony Ambugo, Chief Executive Officer, Water and Sanitation Providers Association. As he makes sense on our water situation in this country, definitely this conversation must continue. And as we continue to sort out